Hi friend, I just wanted to take a minute to invite you to our Lash Biz Babes Experience 2026. This is a one-day all online event happening on May 2nd, and our theme for the year is going all in. We are shaking things up and doing it differently than anyone ever has before. This is going to be an all online event as usual, but it's going to be 100% a curated journey throughout your day as we guide you through the mindset, strategy, and passion needed to go all in on your business to make it your best year in business yet. All lash artists, estheticians, and beauty professionals are invited to join us. There will be guided sessions, interactive workshops, a panel discussion, and big giveaways happening throughout that whole day. And tickets are on sale now for only $199. Payment plans are available. Let's go all in on our businesses for 2026 together. All the details and the link for tickets are down in the show notes below. I would love to have you join us online in May. Welcome to Lash Biz Babes, the podcast for solo beauty business owners who want to build a full clientele and create a business and life that they truly love. My name is Erica. I'm your host. I'm a lash artist turned beauty business coach, lash educator, and social media manager for salons and beauty businesses. I'm so happy that you're here. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Welcome to this week's episode of Lash Biz Babes. My name is Erica. I'm your host, and this week we're going to be talking about resetting your mindset and burnout with going into the new year. I just feel like the new year is a good time to kind of get back on the right track if you feel like the holiday season really burnt you out with doing services or social media or anything like that. The holiday season does tend to be a busy time for service providers, for lash artists, hairstylists, estheticians, and sometimes you can truly feel burnt out from it. So the new year is a good time to just reset, recharge, get your mindset in the right place so that you can have a sustainable business and be able to reach your goals in 2026. So I'm going to share some of my experiences with burnout from when I was lashing, but then also like with podcasting and also the social media management business, because truly it doesn't matter what business type you're in, you will probably experience burnout at some point or another. And there are definitely ways to navigate that and make your business and life feel a little more sustainable again. I definitely went through a phase of burnout this past holiday season myself. And as I reflect on that, I feel like a lot of what I was experiencing actually stemmed from like I needed better boundaries with clients and I needed to hold my boundaries better and have expectations and systems in place. And I kind of let some of those slide just because I do have close relationships with a lot of my social media clients and we work so closely together. So that was a me thing. That was a me problem. And I think sometimes burnout can often come back to how are we holding our boundaries in business? How are we following systems? Like, what are we doing? I think I've talked about this in past episodes, but I often hear with burnout, people saying, well, just take a break, go on vacation, take a few days off and then get back at it and you'll feel so much better, which a break definitely is necessary. A break definitely can help. I feel like even just social media breaks can be a good cleanse for the mind sometimes. But what I've found when I was doing lashes or whether it's podcasting, teaching lash courses, doing social media management, any of that, what I've found is that a break is not the only thing that is going to heal your burnout. If you truly want to feel better and truly heal your burnout, you have to change how you're doing things. So that does come back to one of the things that we talk a lot about on the show, which is self-reflection and just figuring out what am I doing that is contributing to the problem? How am I getting in my own way? And what can I do to fix that, right? And I'm not saying it's always going to be our own fault and it's all your fault and you're so bad, whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying What do you have control over that may be contributing to the burnout, and how can you adjust things to make that feel more sustainable for you long term? Because that's what I hear. I had someone reach out around the holidays asking, "Do you think it's worth it if I took all these extra clients to fit them in before the holiday? I know it's not sustainable long term. Do you think it would burn me out?" And my thing is like, if you need to take extra clients before a holiday, after a holiday, before a vacation, or after a vacation, sometimes you just have to do what you need to do. Or maybe sometimes it even comes down to like you just need to make the money, right? So maybe you need to work extra right now than normal. I think that that's perfectly okay if you go into that with the mindset of like, this isn't sustainable long term and I can't do this forever, but I can do it right now and then I need to get back to a normal schedule. So I think that's just important to go into things with the right frame of mind and like recognizing that the overexerting, like taking more clients, really pushing yourself hard, taking the really long client days with, I mean, I've seen people taking like straight up like 12 clients a day, and like that is not sustainable long term. And I think that's what you have to recognize is what you're doing sustainable long term, and if not, what needs to be adjusted. I've actually had coaching clients in the past where they've come to me like, I'm so burnt out and I don't know what to do. And I had this one at one point, and she was lashing like 12-hour days. She barely had a lunch break. She barely like didn't take breaks during the day, and she was super burnt out. She couldn't really get anything done in her personal life. I mean, she could barely find time to schedule the actual coaching call with me because she was so burnt out on, not even just burnt out on taking lash clients, but she was so busy taking lash clients that she barely even had the time to get on the call with me. And she's like, I don't know what to do to fix this. And what it came down to was, okay, we need to set up your schedule better. What does an ideal schedule look like for you that could feel sustainable long term? So, what it came down to was, okay, we need to have it where you have set hours. You take clients at 9 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3:30 p.m., or whatever that looks like, depending on your timing and how many clients you can take in a day that feels sustainable for you. But like, have set times that you take clients, and then you have like a set lunch break in your day every single day that doesn't move, is non-negotiable. It's blocked out. Clients cannot book during that time, and you don't manually book people during that time. And so even just adding a little bit of structure into her day really helped with the burnout part of things, of just like, okay, at least, she does take a lot of clients still, but she's got the breaks set up in there. And then it was like, okay, also, like, if you are that busy, you can afford to raise your prices and lose a few clients and maybe not have to work so much in the process. But some of that did come down to, I told her like, I don't necessarily want to see you losing out on income because you're working different hours or you're working less. So like, when you're raising your prices, you need to kind of do the math and figure out, what do you need to charge to make a similar amount or more than you were when you're lashing 12-hour days in the new schedule and the new amount of clients that you'll be able to take. So that way you're not necessarily having to take like a huge pay cut, or at least, do the math. Even if you aren't, at least do the math and figure out like, even if you aren't making as much as you were before, you're still making the amount that you need to like live your life how you want to live your lifestyle, right? So sometimes it really does come down to just adding some better structure. And even with podcasting or the social media management company, or like if you're doing trainings or online stuff, like having that structure in your schedule to make sure that everything's getting done is really definitely beneficial for you. But especially when you are taking clients, like making sure you have your breaks and changing that if you need to, because it's not sustainable for you to go all day without taking breaks. And I know it's cute and funny to like laugh about lash artists and how we survive on iced coffee, or coffee all day and blah blah blah, and like we don't eat, but that's like not sustainable. It's not healthy and it's not good for you. So like, you need to be taking your breaks. You need to make sure you're eating throughout the day. You need to make sure you're drinking water, like stretching between clients, taking the time that you need to, because not only is that not sustainable long term and will absolutely lead to burnout, but like the longevity of your career depends on you taking care of yourself. If you want to do lashes for a long time, like you have to take care of yourself now. I feel like that was something that wasn't very talked about when I first got into the lash industry was longevity, sustainability, ergonomics, just making sure like the way that you're lashing isn't going to lead to like carpal tunnel and stuff. That's definitely something that you have to consider and you have to be paying attention to and taking care of yourself so that you can make lashing a long-term career or you can make lashing even a full-time career. Because if you're struggling and you're lashing part-time and struggling and like back pain, neck pain, hand pain, finger pain, like wrist pain, like any of these things, how do you think you're going to go full-time with that if you're already struggling and in pain when you're lashing or taking services part-time? Like, even if it's not lashing, like, I've even talked to, like, waxers or hairstylists, like, it's hard on your body in the beauty industry, so you definitely have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I know I've talked with a lot of pregnant people before who are like, what do I do when I'm pregnant? This is just kind of like a side note on this, but like when you're pregnant and you're lashing, you're doing services too, I feel like it's even more important to like be very, very aware of taking care of yourself throughout the day. Drinking your water, having your snacks, stretching, walking around. I even had a chiropractor at one point who told me to get one of the I don't remember exactly what they're called, but basically it's like a half exercise ball. So the bottom part is flat and then the top part has like the exercise ball part on it. It's like, circular. And he said I could like sit on that and kind of roll around on that during the day while I was lashing so that it's still more stability of like the bottom is flat, you're in a normal chair, but you can still kind of move around. For me, it was like the SI joints and like my hips and stuff. That was something that was really helpful for me because when you're literally sitting all day long, that is very hard on your body too. Just some things to take into consideration, like what is your schedule like? How are you taking care of yourself throughout the day? And then also, I feel like just you time management. How are you managing your time to ensure that everything's getting done? That's something I feel like I ran into when I was taking lash clients. You take clients all day, but you still have so many other responsibilities outside of taking clients, whether that's inventory, cleaning, customer service, doing all of like your bookkeeping or even just managing appointments, social media, DMs, stocking retail, like any of these things. There's so much more. So it's like, okay, you're lashing all day and then you still have all this other stuff to go home and do. And that feels really overwhelming sometimes and definitely leads to burnout if you're not managing your time well and scheduling things out. It's important to have at least some kind of pulse on your schedule as far as like scheduling time in to do like back end things, to do CEO tasks, as I've heard some people call it, and like just all of your admin work basically, and being able to have that flex time to just get what you need to done, but schedule it on your calendar even if it's during the day. So maybe you're not taking a client during that time, but you're at your studio getting admin stuff done. So that my favorite lash schedule ever had an hour of flex time at the end of the day where I still had childcare, so my kids were taken care of. I wasn't needed anywhere else at that time, and I could be at my studio after taking clients and just cleaning, restocking, doing social media stuff, recording content, whatever I needed to get done. So I think that's just important, especially when it comes to like work-life balance, because no one wants to go take clients all day and then come home, especially if you have kids and other responsibilities, animals, if you're volunteering or coaching or you have other things you do outside of work or even just hobbies, right? Like you don't want to come home and have all these other things that you need to get done or people who you need to be paying attention to and taking care of with kids and then be like, oh my gosh, but I need to go spend an hour or two on my computer now and be super like that just feels very burnouty to me. So, just ensuring that you're managing your time well, that's another really important part of burnout management. And then, kind of just tying back into what I was talking about earlier, with your boundaries. If you get lousy on your boundaries, if you get like flimsy with them, if you will, or like loosey goosey, I don't know what do you want to call it. But like if you aren't holding firm on your boundaries, then it's going to eventually lead to burnout. And I think boundaries kind of get misunderstood because, in my opinion, the way I see it, boundaries are something that it's like that's your boundary, that's what you are going to hold to. whether like I feel like sometimes we expect other people to always follow our boundaries, which of course that's respectful of them too, especially if they are aware of them and it has been communicated to them. But it's not other people's responsibility to hold our boundaries for us. It's our responsibility to hold our boundaries for us. So we are the one who needs to be following that and staying firm on that and like living that way, running our business that way, right? So, like, if you have certain business hours that you are only responding to clients within those business hours. I always had it to where, like, I had, certain hours I would take clients and then certain hours that I would respond to messages. So, like, if I took clients from 9 a.m. to like 4 p.m. ish, and then I'd have that hour of flex time at the end of the day, those were my hours to take clients, but I would respond to people from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or, whatever that looked like. So you can kind of have communication hours, right? Because even though you're solo or, maybe you work for someone else or whatever, like even though you have good relationships with your clients and all these things, that doesn't mean that you need to be available to them 24/7. I think some people would probably argue with me on this one, especially if you're like in an active building phase, you're building your clientele, like you need to be flexible, you need to be available, you need to be responding to people. It's not worth the burnout that comes with it to be responding to people 24/7 and be available to them 24/7. And there's no other business out there that you would expect to answer the phone or text you back at 10 p.m., right? So it's like a client can text you at 10 p.m., they can call you at 10 p.m. But that doesn't mean that you're going to respond or answer to them at 10 p.m. Like you respond or call them back the next day at 9 a.m. or whatever time you open for the day, like you have your business hours open, right? So, of course, it's respectful and courteous for people to not be texting or calling you that late, but it's at the end of the day, if they do, maybe that's just when they were thinking about it, so they wanted to send it while they were thinking about it, whatever. It's just your responsibility to make sure you're not responding to them that late, right? And that you respond to them the next day. Or with your policies, it can be very easy to get burnt out if you were just letting it slide and basically letting people walk all over you. And like, I feel like there's a time and a place to be flexible and make exceptions. And especially for loyal clients who have been like good to you, who've moved appointments around for you for your schedule, who work with you on things like that and they've been good to you. The ones that are good tippers, the ones who aren't late, who, communicate well with you, who are like really good clients. I feel like there's definitely a time and a place to be flexible with them and to work with them, even outside of your policies. But like it can't be an all the time type of thing, right? It can't be something where it's just constant policy breaking and constant reschedules or no shows or anything like that. I always worded it as like, okay, no problem. I'm going to make an exception to the policy this time. So I'm not going to charge you the fee, that kind of thing. Like it's going to be an exception this time, but, next time we'll have to enforce the policy or whatever. Holding to your policies and even just little things with like what's included in your service, what's not included with the service, right? So if like you charge extra for lash baths and you're not charging people for those, or if they really need a full set and you're giving them a full set but only charging them for a fill, that's something that's eventually going to lead to burnout, right? But that's something that's like that's our own doing. We're doing that to ourselves and it's not sustainable long term, right? And that's kind of what I found myself doing even with the social media management business at one point was like I'm doing so much extra and it's not being received or it like from my perspective appreciated in the way that I hoped for it to be. And like it doesn't ever feel like enough. And then they just want more and they expect more. And like it's just not sustainable long term. And there definitely has to be a boundary around like this is what's included in the service. And if we're going to do more than that or extra or something different, then we need to change, we've got to switch it to the full set or we've got to change it to reflect the actual price of what you're receiving, right? And that doesn't matter if that's with services, with trainings, with doing stuff like social media management or anything in between. Like even with lash trainings, you are going to run into at some point struggles or problems with students or issues, boundary issues, policy issues, like you still need policies, you still need boundaries in place with your students. And so that's why I just feel like good communication, holding your boundaries, and really being like staying true to like the standards in business that you have, I feel like is super important because it does lead to burnout. And in my case, with over this past holiday season, like I felt very burnt out and like just was like I'm just struggling with, I don't know, just the amount of stress that it led to in my day-to-day life was absolutely not sustainable. I was like, this is so stressful. This is too much. Like I can't and keep doing this. And I ended up having to slow down quite a bit for a few months and like really cut back on clients and like really take some time to be spending more time with my kids and to be kind of reevaluating what the heck am I doing with my life right now? Like, what am I doing with my business? What are my goals? And I like kind of did have to reevaluate like what are my boundaries because you do work so closely with clients too. Sometimes the personal and the business can get intermixed and then you feel like, well, we have like a friendship now. So like now it feels hard to like have hard conversations with them. And so then you just kind of let things slide and you let them walk on you and you do extra and blah blah blah. And then it's you kind of get yourself in this mess where it's like now they're expecting all these things. You do have this more personal relationship and you haven't held to your boundaries or your policies. And now what? Right? It feels really uncomfortable. It makes the conversation when it will eventually break down even more hard than it would have been if you would have just addressed it to begin with. And now you just feel absolutely burnt out. So it's just important. Like, it's okay, I feel like, to have some level of personal connection or relationship with your clients. I know a lot of people who've really thrived and grown their business a lot because of those things, but like you still have to hold firm. You can have that personal relationship and still hold firm on your boundaries and expectations and like how you run your business and your communication with them. There's a time and a place for both, and it's a hard balance, but you still have to hold firm on your business boundaries and on how you handle those things and how you approach those hard conversations. So, yeah, I had to really slow down, kind of just reevaluate things and get myself on a better track and just get myself back in the right mindset too. And a lot of that I do think came down to taking some time off, making sure things were done still, deadlines were met, but scheduling in some time off. I still needed to, like I talked about before, I still needed to make the changes. I still needed to adjust things and reevaluate, but I did need to take some time off and just let my brain breathe and just have that free space, that like white space on the calendar to just let yourself be. And I feel like that gives your brain the opportunity to just be more creative again, think of ideas, remember why you're doing this in the first place, just have like that good energy flowing back in. For me, it gives me more creativity, it brings me a lot of good ideas and like fresh perspective on things, which I know I need to lead my business and to grow is I need that. So that can even be something that you make sure to schedule in. It's just some downtime and doing things that you love, eating your favorite food, watching your favorite movie. Like I like to get outside and things like that. So, take that downtime if you need it. I feel like burnout can truly be just kind of a beast sometimes, but what it comes down to is what's sustainable for you long term. What does that look like? And what changes do you need to make it more sustainable for you, right? Whether that's schedule changes, policy changes, the way you communicate with clients, changes in that. If you've been struggling with burnout, just know you're not alone. It happens to us all at all different phases. And it's like, well, what worked for your business last year might be different this year and you might need to make changes. And it just kind of evolves over time as your business grows, as you grow, as things change, as you change, and that's totally okay. So, just remember you're not alone. There are things that you can do to heal that burnout, to get better with it, and just to get back in the right mindset for the new year. So, if that is you, take the time to do some self reflection, see what changes you can make, see what adjustments you can make to make things feel more sustainable for you, and just kind of slowly get back into your groove with things. But then also taking that time for yourself to just have some downtime, to let yourself relax for a bit and get back in the mindset of dreaming in a sense of just like what's the possibilities, like why am I doing this to begin with, and just like kind of getting back into that joy and excitement in your business. If you don't have some level of excitement and like you're ready, you're excited to wake up the next morning and grow your business, you're excited to wake up and do things for the day and like run your business, then like it's not gonna feel good and it's going to lead to burnout. Find some ways to find joy and excitement in your day-to-day running of your business. That's one of the best parts about being a business owner, is that it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to make sense to you, and you can do what brings you joy and you can run things the way that works the best for you. So if you're struggling with this, I love you. You're not alone. You've got this. I hope that you have the best 2026 and are able to get in a better mindset and in a better groove for more sustainability this year. If you guys have questions on this, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at xoericasham. And make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening at so that you can get notified when new episodes go live every Tuesday. I love you. Have the best week, and I will talk to you again next week.